Check, check, check. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. It is doing it again where I can't see any feedback. Can you guys hear me okay? And also, is the music still on? I think I might have turned it off the wrong way. So if you guys can hear me, just go ahead and say the word. Okay, sounding good. Is the music off? Did I turn it off? Okay, good. No music. Awesome. All right, 1 second, and I'll pull down the banner and also put on camera. Let's see, banner. Well, let me just do the camera first. Should be fine. All right, good, good. And the banner is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. Okay, good. You know, ever since I started streaming, I think a couple years ago without headphones, I still somewhat feel disconnected because I can't hear my voice as feedback. So, but all is well and good. So welcome everyone. We don't have a few people today, but that's okay. Or we don't have more than a few people, I should say. That's okay though, because it is it's Memorial Day. I do expect people traveling. So it's going to be more or less a casual conversation as per usual. I guess when is it not casual? But let's go ahead and welcome the chat before we get started. My bang is kind of sticking out. Ugh, whatever bangs I have. So Ghost Planet Inc. Max 1.0, welcome. You were first. Welcome to have you. My one and only first channel member. That thumbnail is a thing of beauty. Thank you. Thank you. I liked it. Yeah, I had to try a few images to make sure there was some uniformity as far as the look is concerned. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the result. We also have Walayimuna. Walayimuna. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. We've also got Brian Gilmartin, longtime listener. Made it right in time. Yes, you did. Yeah, usually, between 5:30 and 6. That's kind of on Sundays. That's kind of where I'm ballparking the streaming. And I think that's everyone, right? Is that everyone? Oh, we've got Private Eye. Welcome. And Ginyu. Welcome. Good, good. Now we have a few more people. So I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you are having a terrific Sunday before Memorial Day. I'm working Memorial Day, so that's the American spirit, right? Have the freedom to work. And I think where we are, we're expected to have some gross weather, but that's okay. It's to be expected in the month of May. So, but anyway, it's also kind of humid outside. It started okay, and then I was starting to walk, and it just got a little humid. But that is a lot of small talk. Welcome, Big Al. Good to have you. Hello. Actually, just for the record, I might as well just say it. Well, first of all, happy birthday to Al. It's his birthday weekend. He turned his next year up, I think Friday, if I'm correct there. So hopefully he had a nice, pleasant birthday weekend. Also before Memorial Day, which is awesome. And just for the record, I'm probably just going to say this outright, but I think Professor Geek and Big Al are planning sometime this summer to go back to the EU, Star Wars EU, just for the summer, as the prof he doesn't have as involved a load of classes, for teaching. But he's thinking about doing the EU study this summer. And I think the book that we're talking about is Darth Plagueis. And while I'm not particularly interested in the character itself, even though it's a pretty iconic character in the Star Wars lore, I would like to read that book. I want to read at least that book because I had heard, and Prof, you would know this more than anyone here, but I heard there was a little bit more political intrigue involved. So I would be interested in that aspect because I think that's a really important facet as far as writing is concerned, especially if you're writing science fiction or even fantasy, where there's a lot of people, countering one another, and usually that involves society, civilizations, and politics. So I think Darth Plagueis in particular might be not just an enjoyable read as far as fiction is concerned, but also I think it would just help me learn a little bit better how to master something like political intrigue. Okay, so Prof is saying it is a political thriller top to bottom. Good. Yes, happy Pentecost to you too, Al. um, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, something like the House of Cards, for instance, the television show. I know I've talked about it before. I couldn't get past the third season because the political intrigue actually just watered down to absolute nihilism on every character's part. Even like the bad guy who's the main protagonist, you know, Kevin Spacey's character. Can we still say his name now? I don't know. But he was a bad guy, even though he was the protagonist. We were going through the show in his perspective, and then it went. I didn't even watch it as far as going through his wife's perspective. Even after the whole social debacle that was Spacey's scandal, but I'd even continue the series after that because it just got down to utter nihilism, and then all the characters you were sort of rooting for who would like um, expose the nature of the administration, they all died. It's like they're bound to die. They're gonna die, and then they did die. I read on Wikipedia they did die, and I was like, no, I can't. I can't. I'll do political intrigue, but or thriller or whatever, but I won't do a scandalous show or I won't do a nihilistic show just for the sake of shock. I just like shock, like on the first couple of times is fine, but then when it's shock to be expected, then there's no point. So anyway, Jared Wignall is yeah. Is that how you say your name? I read it often, but I don't know how to say your last name. But Jared is in the house saying, once in a while, good stuff comes out of Hollywood. When Lucas and others came about, there was some wiggle room for indie filmmakers, and it would be nice that if that happened again at some point. Yeah. So this topic we're talking about is cultural, a cultural renaissance. I'm going to say that again, a cultural renaissance. And it's kind of funny because the thumbnail, at one point, yeah, at the making of those films, yeah, it was absolutely a renaissance of sorts, especially with the superhero genre, but also just fiction in general, science fiction and fantasy in general with movie making. It was, science fiction or space fantasy or fantasy, involving superheroes that was very cinematic. It wasn't the expected B-rated stuff that was happening, of course, in the earlier decades, like would you say 60s? Maybe definitely 70s and 80s, like 80s. Yeah. So it was high quality art and cinema with something like Star Wars. And even though like the academics would bulk at that to say, well, how could you say Star Wars, the original Star Wars is a masterpiece? I mean, it's not a perfect film, but it's a good story and it's well executed. So, that's good enough for me. But I do think we are in another artistic and cultural renaissance of sorts, and we're kind of getting into it. We're seeing successful people do their own stories, and they're making a parallel market out of it. So that's good. So they're producing new works, new stories, new characters, new art in general. So not just storytelling, but art in general. And so we're seeing kind of this reemergence of this pop culture renaissance that we desperately need. That said, I don't think we will get to the level of the original Star Wars phenomena. Not that we have to, but I don't think we'll get to that level of standard storytelling, consistently until there's a cultural change. And I'm not talking about a political change. I'm actually talking about just a change that, yeah, maybe we're seeing involving politics, but that's the surface level. I'm going to be talking about something way deeper than politics that really starts from the individual, the individual actions of individual people, and then hopefully, collecting it into more of a cultural phenomenon. So that all of that sounded really ambiguous coming out of my mouth, but it'll make sense as we go because I've got some good thoughts. So before we continue, we are saying, "Hail the Iron Age!" Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people. We'll talk about the Iron Age. I think actually that's going to be that actually might be congruent with what I have in mind to speak about today. What is your name? Aragmar? Beryllian? Sorry, the computer, you can see I'm far away. I'm looking up and I'm far away. The computer screen is kind of far away. I guess I could, make the text bigger. But welcome. You say, "Hail the Iron Age." Um, and and you're also saying you mean cultural reconstruction. I actually do want to use the word Renaissance because Renaissance, yes, it does talk about when you use the word Renaissance, you are talking about a specific period of art history and music history. It is a specific period. I think getting is the Renaissance, I would say, I could be mistaken, but I'm ballparking it between the 15 and 1600s. If I have that right, maybe even earlier. I don't have the date right, but maybe you guys want to throw in the date for me. But yeah, is actually Renaissance is an artistic period in art history, but it's also meant to the term is meant to connotate a revival of something. A revival, in our case, a revival of good art in the way of good stories, as you guys are so familiar with. So going back to your previous comment on the Iron Age, I think that is one big aspect of this cultural renaissance of independent uh, filmmaking and storytelling and all of that good stuff. But I do think we're not going to get the renaissance where we want until we make some major changes in our decision making. So that's again that this is getting to a point, but why don't I just go ahead and say my point? So let me grab a swig of water. By the way, I had not planned this stream. I didn't even have this idea to talk about until like late this morning, before my writing stint, my Sunday writing stint. So I don't have any bullet points down. I just have thoughts, and hopefully you guys, hopefully it resonates with you, and maybe you can add to the discussion if you want. But by the way, my YouTube is not up, so I'm going to keep an eye on chat, just make sure internet connection is fine and audio and video is fine. But hopefully that is good. So so on the thumbnail, you saw the original Star Wars, beautiful, beautiful poster. I know many people have that as a poster in their room, in their house. And then of course you've got the original Superman with Christopher Reeve, and then also the original Captain America as he was at least cinematically meant to be before Disney and Marvel, in particular, Marvel Studios deconstructed his character and whittled his character down to nothing, really. But the first movie, while probably not the perfect representation of Captain America in the comics, he definitely did have the embodiment of that aspiration. Like I'm not going to have this future, when he says it to the Red Skull, it's like, I'm not going to have this as my future. I'm going to stop you, So very inspiring story. And I think, I do believe that we can get to that level of storytelling again. And I do think we're seeing some figureheads, if you will, in the cultural history. So, time will tell who exactly will be going strong, maybe within the decade or two. But we can see examples. I make the example quite frequently now. Young Ripa, even on a smaller scale, we've got RJ from the Fourth Age wanting to tell superhero stories, but also fantasy stories. Just good old fashioned heroics. Maybe a bit of romanticism in those heroics. Traditional values and things that are just akin to the human nature and the human condition, what makes a good archetype of the human experience. So we have that, but we do also have to see there is a dark side in this reemergence, this cultural renaissance that we are wanting, a change for the better. We're wanting a cultural change for the better. For instance, we want He-Man to be He-Man. We don't want She-Man. We don't want a bad version of Tila, for instance. So that's just an example, maybe arbitrarily, but you know what I mean. But we're finding ourselves in a situation, at least I'm seeing this, maybe you guys are seeing this too. We're kind of finding ourselves in a situation where the problems that we face and the conflict that we face with ideology infesting our stories and dominating the mainstream entertainment, we're finding those problems very slow to solve, because we've been in this battle, this cultural battle for how many years now? Over a decade, and especially over the last 5 to 7 or 8 years. Um, we want to see a change, for instance, in Star Wars. It's like, we gotta have Luke Skywalker back. We gotta have the old school, good old-fashioned heroics back in something like Star Wars. And then now we've seen like, oh, not only did they not learn that we didn't like the sequel trilogy, we're going forward. We're seeing that they're going forward. These people are going forward with continuing that legacy, that terrible legacy. But at the same time, we keep raising our pitchforks and saying, we're trying to send a message. We're trying to send a message that what we like and what we don't like. And as Professor Geek was saying in his stream last night, if you haven't seen his stream he did last night, I think it's a good one. I think it's worth watching. He's basically saying that the normies are kicking our butt as far as seeing a change. And the social example that we have now, at least currently, is Budweiser and Bud Light. Oh, wait, is it Budweiser? Bud Light. I don't know the brands, but you know what I'm talking about. Is where the profit margin just nosedived with the whole political and market scandal that was with the product Bud Light. And for different reasons, people just said no. We're tired of this. We're tired of not only you asking us to tolerate what we really don't prefer anyway. You're invading our space. Actually, RJ came up with a wonderful example, the fourth age, in his last video. He came up with the not perfect, but a very salient point, that the thing with beer in particular is that beer, yes, more men drink beer than women, especially Bud Light. That's the demographic. We all know that, okay? Yeah, women can enjoy a Bud Light, but Bud Light is, as RJ was saying, men, their brains are wired to compartmentalize, saying, this is my work, and if I have stress during the workday at work, I can just go home, go to my living room, go to my living space, and not have to deal with work. And usually the way maybe a man would unwind is have a beer and do whatever he wants. Veg, play a video game, watch a show, chat with friends, whatever. But sometimes or in a certain setting, the man with his compartmentalized brain will say, this is with me and my beer. And as soon as the ideological intrusion of the image, the new image on Bud Light that caused a stir, came, was put upon that beer can, men are like, no, you can have your thing, you can do your own thing while I'm at work, while I'm in the outside world. But as soon as you try to invade my space, that's it. And that was the reaction with Bud Light. Bud Light has suffered dire consequences as far as the profit margin is concerned. And so the takeaway that geeks need to see with normies is, oh, we actually can make a massive change. We actually can change for the better. But why hasn't our change come? Why hasn't Star Wars changed for the better? Why is Marvel continuing to do the movies and shows? I mean, isn't Loki up for a season 2? I don't know. That's what I heard when I read that in the news article or whatever news article I was reading. I was like, there's a Loki 2? I could be wrong about that, but I heard it was greenlit for a second season. Probably She-Hulk will be greenlit for a second season. All these ridiculous shows that make fun of people for originally loving something like Marvel. Why are these continuing? Why aren't geeks seeing the change, that ultimate cultural renaissance that we really do need to see? Well, it's simply because geeks have not disincentivized people from producing these garbage shows. If geeks approached Marvel, for instance, like Bud Light drinkers approached, man, is it Anheuser? Is that the company? I'm blanking on the name, sorry. But if you get my point, like, if geeks approached Marvel and Star Wars and DC, like, everyday people approached Bud Light or Target even, they would have seen a change for the better much, much faster. Like, within instead of 15 years or 20 years, if that even happens, they'd have seen it within I would make the educated approximation, probably 2 to 5 years. If we really I mean, as Professor Geek said, like, if we really tighten our belts and we're really disciplined on what we do and do not watch, and really ultimately ignore all the garbage that Marvel and DC and, Star Wars are turning up. If we really just did an absolute cold turkey no, they would have stopped their nonsense a long time ago. Professor Geek, as I was about to say, in my thoughts, I was thinking, yeah, there was one time where Professor Geek was saying once or twice that the pandemic was the perfect time to make Disney feel the pinch, the squeeze, really, the economic squeeze. Now, in some way or another, to some extent, Disney is feeling the financial pressures. There are just so many job layoffs and stuff like that. And I will say my thoughts and condolences for people who, like, honest workers who did lose a job, like an honest job. But for people actively knowing that what they're producing makes the general audience, like, upset or at least apathetic, like, really, you would know that your job is moot. Now, I do wanna say that with all fairness, like, some people really did lose honest jobs. So, but that's the thing is that's not for the fans to be blamed for, you know? Um, companies, not even in a political setting, companies do go under. People do lose their jobs. I mean, we face that especially with, 2020 and all that. So that's kind of the general that's the overview of what I'm trying to say, is that we're not gonna experience a cultural renaissance, the renaissance that we want, the reemerging of good stories on the level we want with our lack of discipline. So let me go to the chat for a second, and then I'm gonna collect my thoughts and maybe see some practical applications, what geeks can do, what fans can do to actually see the change that people drinking Bud Light are seeing. Like, oh, okay, I don't need this nonsense anymore. And if companies go under, they go under. And by the way, that's not the customer's fault. You know how people I think over this is such a sidebar. I think over the last 20 or 30 years, the whole notion the customer is always right has been scoffed at and laughed at because yeah, I mean, sometimes a customer service job can be really tough. But there is a little truth to that. Like the customer, maybe I'll say this, the customer is never wrong. So meaning if profits tank and a company goes under for foolish marketing reasons, that's not the customer to blame. The customer just decided, hey, you gave me no incentive to buy your product anymore. In fact, you gave me reason to avoid your product. That's just how it is. So let's go ahead and go into the chat, and then I'll kind of think of some other examples of how we can speed up the cultural renaissance. Yeah, that's the theme of my stream today. All right. Oh man, we've got some comments. I keep scrolling up, and you guys are talking. So you're talking away, which is awesome. Private Eye says, "Shame what happened to the House of Cards. I really wanted to see what the fight between husband and wife would have been." I mean, yeah, when the writing is actually affected by real life circumstances, that's like you have to kind of work with what you have. But I did end up reading the summary of what ended up happening with that show after the whole scandal, and it was just it was probably it's like flat soda, you know? You want carbonated. You want a carbonated drink, and then you just open the can, and it's just flat. That's kinda my impression of how the show ended, unfortunately. But actually, it was too dark for me. Like, I can do dark, but when it's perpetually dark and then all characters are kind of they're not as bad as the bad protagonists, but they're not that great either. I just lose interest. Brian Gilmartin says, "It's happening slowly but surely. You're seeing more people reject the current mainstream in favor of other mediums." I think so. I think so. Um, Aragmar says, "The new is," I think this is a quote, "The new is not necessarily better, just as the old isn't always useless." I would say the new needs to be good, but yeah, just because it's new doesn't mean it is good. That's not um that would be a reaction to be cautious of. Like you don't want to say, "Oh, this is amazing," just because it's new and going as a countercultural response. That's also important. It still has to be a good story. Oh, Ragmar is. Oh, are you the writer of Star Shatter, or is it a conglomeration of writers? I actually don't know how. Um, I don't know how that universe works. I saw it one time on Amazon, but I don't know if you're the sole writer or if it is a group of writers expanding the universe. That's cool. Either way, it's cool. Um, let's see. While Yamuna, as I think regarding this idea for a cultural renaissance, there is no distinction between what we like to see and what we need to see, and those may not be the same. I think there's a bit of truth to that. There is a distinction. I think with geeks in particular, with fans in particular, they can like simultaneously a good Marvel story. So, for instance, if it's a good story and it's Marvel, those two can be inseparable. But maybe they like Marvel only because it's Marvel, but it's a bad story. That's a different situation. And so therefore a distinction does need to be made. Private Eye says, "I always remember the story where people nominate Captain America for president. I think it's beautiful. I mean, some of his words are very fitting for the presidential candidacy. But I don't think, I mean, I could be wrong because I don't know Captain America that well. Like, I have a general understanding of who he is as a character. I don't think he is the politician. And I don't mean that disparagingly. He has his own role to um, be that exemplary, if I can say that word right, exemplary character. While Yamuna says, "Don't forget Shad Brooks." I want Shad Brooks to just be talking about his art. That's it. If he only talks about his art, or if he only talks about good stories, I'm on board. And then EVS for Cyberfrog. Oh, good. So we do have a writer in the house, a published writer, no less. Aragmar. Good. Very good. Yeah, I'll double check that. Can I talk today? I will double check that. All right. Do 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 do. Now we're all talking about beer. All right. Brian Gilmartin says, "Learning to compartmentalize and is a part of life. I myself had to learn how to balance school, work, art, video games for the better part of my life, from the teens and onward." Well, RJ in particular was talking about how men and women have different brains. So, for instance, the scenario was that men can compartmentalize where they can have a terrible day at work, and if they go home, that's it. Home is home, work is work. And actually, I've been in situations where I've known project managers who were men take their work with them, and it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy for them. It wasn't healthy for their family life. But women, we tend to take our baggage with us. So if we have a bad day at work, we tend to want to talk about it. Whereas the man usually, not always, there's always an exception, but the man usually just wants to be done with this. Like, I don't want to talk about how bad my day was. Whereas women are like, I got to get this off my chest. And so there's that difference where the I think, um, Prof, you were talking about a comedian. I can't remember the name, but you were talking about a comedian who had the man's brain. It's like, here's my little box for this. Here's my compartment for that. Here's my organizer for this. The part of the brain. This is the part of the brain. And then here's this happy little box that I open, and there's nothing. There's nothing in this box. Whereas with a woman's brain, everything is like cross-wired and electrocuting everything else. So that's just how we're wired. And until we train to be a lot more mindful. So I don't think women should have haphazard, neurological wirings that are just, shooting off. just an aside, but uh, my prof says that when I have a cup of coffee, I tend to talk faster. Like my energy just goes when I'm talking. I'm talking about all sorts of things after a cup of coffee, and I didn't know that about myself. I didn't know that I talk slower after hours of having coffee, or maybe having not have had coffee. But he's like, when I talk to you after you have a cup of coffee, you're like, "Brrr." And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. All right. All right, so we are continuing with the chat, which is wonderful. Let me see if I can catch up with the chat, and then I kind of want to talk about what I'm having before I lose my train of thinking, because I feel like it's important. Ragmar is saying, I hope I'm saying your name right. They are churning out their ideological propaganda because they are getting paid for doing this. There is still some venture capital left to invest in these pieces, these ideological pieces. Yeah, a little bit. But even if they don't have the monetary incentive, I think it's really about dominance. It's about influence. Influence is way more important than actual monetary currency. Influence and relevance. As soon as they dominate your space, they have you. As soon as you push back and retaliate and say, no, 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 no. I've let you do your own thing and make your own movies and tell your own stories without needing to read it or watch it. But as soon as you invade the privacy of my space, which is my space, that's it. That's it. And so now people are like, okay, enough is enough. You've had us tolerate for so long, but now you're asking us to tolerate your invasion of our own space, of our own lifestyle. That's that the line has been crossed. And I think a lot of people right now, culturally speaking and socially speaking, people are retaliating now. And you don't want to retaliate in an aggressive way or in a mean-spirited way. You don't want to be ugly in your retaliation. But some people are saying, no, 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 no. I do believe what you believe is not good for me or my family. That's fine. Because the other side would have said the same thing. I don't want what you think invade my space. So that's the normal everyday person setting. That's the person who goes to work and has a family and stuff like that. But we need that same retaliation with the fans, with the fandom. So let's actually talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let me grab a swig of water. Let's talk about that, and then we'll get back into the chat. So the response to something like Bud Light was instantaneous. I mean, the fact that the sales dropped and the incentive to produce more Bud Light because of this scandal is pretty remarkable. But it's also predictable. It makes sense if you think about it. If you make an entire demographic unhappy, you're turning them away. You're turning away customers. Logically speaking, customers no more. Make customers mad, you don't make customers. Basic business sense, right? But fans are a different breed of customers. Fans have started creating this weird but really understandable tolerance of bad product. And how has this been achieved? The Star Wars sequels, for instance, really turned off a lot of people. But there was this response we had not seen before in the online space, in the public square that is the internet. And that is, okay, we're so mad. And by the way, this isn't just Star Wars. This isn't just the sequels. This is just fans reacting to certain very profitable IPs. That was their original love as children and as fans. With Star Wars in particular, they reacted. There was a huge divide, a very, very, very hostile and strong divide among the fandom, the Star Wars fandom, because there was such a gross retaliation against the sequels. And at first, I think Disney got the message saying, oh, because the Star Wars, the viewership, I should say, dropped when it came to a film like Solo. I never saw Solo. I have no idea what Solo is about. Besides that, it's about Han Solo, but I don't know. I can't even remember what if it's good or bad. I trust the prof if he's seen it. I can't remember if he watched it, but I have no idea how bad Solo was as a representation of Han Solo. But that's not the point. The point is people did not go see. I remember talking to a project manager who loved Star Wars, but after he saw, I think it was The Last Jedi, was that the trajectory? He's like, I don't care about this Solo story. And I think that was enough to make people see over at Disney and Lucasfilm like, oh, okay. But then we had certain projects kind of come out, and we saw the coming of The Mandalorian, and it looked beautiful. The trailer looked beautiful. It looked very close to Star Wars without Force users or something like that. It was like it got the intrigue of like a Western a little bit. Like, oh, okay, what's this about? What's this about? And then people saw it. I didn't, and people loved it. And then from that cued Disney to thinking, okay, we can push this. We can push what they like, and then keep introducing stuff that we probably know they would not like. And sure enough, things like this, The Rise of Skywalker came out, and then other projects came out that was not it did not receive the accolades and the applause that an accurate adaptation of the Thrawn trilogy would have, for instance. It just did not see the level of praise that something like Star Wars should actually easily get, whether it's a show or a movie. But over time, over many years, there's been this trajectory. Like, okay, we're going to give you a little bit of what you like or what you think you like. And then we're going to keep pushing our ideas of what Star Wars should be. And yes, you have been vocal about what you don't like that we give you. You've been vocal about Book of Boba Fett. You've been vocal about Kenobi. We know what you don't like, but we're going to still push this until we've come to the whole universal acceptance of, hey, guess what? We're really pushing Rey Skywalker on you guys again. Yeah, I know. It's been 5, 6, 7 years. 5 to 7 years of absolute outcry and disdain of this character, but we're pushing this on you. Why? Because you have told us as Star Wars fans that you will tolerate a lot and still watch our stuff. Star Wars fans and just fans in general have shown the world, maybe even some normies, that they have a very high threshold of tolerance. They can endure a lot of pain and a lot of self-affliction. And that cues Disney and Lucasfilm to say, well, okay, we can still give them what they like, but we can still also push our views of Star Wars, the views that they hate. So that's one thing. Now, in congruence with that alone, well, there's been this industry. Why has this tolerance been intact for so many years? There's this industry on this platform that I'm on right now, that I hopefully am still on. Gotta check my audio. Okay, good. Everything looks good. Where has this tolerance come from? It's come from this industry that is its own entertainment industry, and that is the YouTube channel. Or I should say the YouTube channels, plural. The reason why the reason why the fandom of all these IPs can tolerate the nonsense, can tolerate the absolute bad, the absolute offensive, the absolute insulting you kind of offensive. Like they know these makers of these shows hate them, but they'll tolerate it. Why? Because now we're in the industry. We're in the part of the entertainment industry with YouTube saying, well, every bad movie comes with a trade-off. What's the trade? What's the exchange? For every bad movie or every bad show, the fan gets at least 10 hours, if not way more, of commentary and social exchange. So if there's a bad movie out there, let's say Marvel comes out with as it has been for the last several years now, with the most offensive show. Well, the fan says, I hate what's going on with Marvel, but at least I get 20 hours of entertainment on YouTube of my favorite YouTube channels reacting to this, and I agree with them. I'm going to go down the comments, and so many other people are going to agree with me, and I'm going to agree with them, and I'm going to engage with my favorite YouTube celebrities and stuff like that. That's been the trade-off. That's why Disney actually has been so successful with the atrocities of Marvel and Star Wars. Same with Warner Brothers with DC. It's because every bad show is going to guarantee the fan 20 times the entertainment with YouTube commentary, reactionary commentary. That's been the trade-off. So you will never see a reaction and a loss. You will never see Marvel lose or Disney lose on the level of Anheuser-Busch. That's the name I'm thinking of. Because with the Bud Light drinkers, boom, I'm not going to tolerate it. You're not going to put that in the privacy of my own home. With Star Wars, why? Because hypothetically, these beer drinkers are not going to social commentary and reaction of how bad this is. Maybe the news, but that's a long shot still. The news, even with its infotainment, does not produce the quality of entertainment as the YouTube channels, as the YouTube personalities, as the celebrities. So do fans really want the bad stuff to stop? If there came a time, let's say Disney instantaneously stopped all bad content. Let's say, I don't think it will ever happen. I think Disney will go under and will never recover. That's my personal belief. But let's hypothetically say that Disney just instantaneously stopped. Can't say my words today. Let's say it instantly stopped all bad content. What's going to happen? All your favorite or all fans' favorite YouTube personalities won't have such content anymore. Now, people would say maybe, well, then they'll talk about good stuff. That might be true, and they should, but it's not going to garner the viewership that the bad stuff has garnered. I mean, that's just the laws of marketing physics, by the way. Like the negative attention gets X amount greater than positive attention. So let's say one of these YouTube personalities didn't have anything bad to say. I'm like, okay, well, what do I like? Oh, I like Tolkien. Okay, I love Tolkien. I've been putting my commentary on Rings of Power, for instance, and how bad Amazon is and stuff like that. But I like Tolkien. I really do like Tolkien. So I'm going to do commentary now. I don't have anything bad to say, so I'm going to do commentary now. I'm going to do commentary that is analysis and artistic input on the book, The Silmarillion. Okay, you may have an audience still, but you will not have a fraction of the audience you had when you were bashing something like Rings of Power. That's just a given. If you guys don't believe me, well, time will tell, right? So the slowdown is, of these companies like Disney is not going to happen instantly like it should. Like it should. The normies have shown us, the normies have shown the world that it can happen, but it's not going to happen with the geeks. It's not going to happen with the fans. The actual cultural renaissance that we're after is going to happen when people who are part of this YouTube industry start, reversing the effects, so to speak, saying, okay, I think I just need to talk about good art. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. In fact, I think it can't happen until Disney actually absolutely stops producing. So let's get back into the chat and then talk about practical applications of how to stop the nonsense as fans of these genres or IPs, I should say. Let's see. Disney feels the financial pressure because they were dumb enough to buy Fox. Without that, I don't think they would have been that bad, pandemic or not. Maybe. Yeah, maybe they thought they could get out of the hole with Fox content and stuff like that. I don't know the whole motive of buying Fox, to be honest. Well, no, I'm not a business person, but I can only guess that they wanted to acquire a monopoly of entertainment. I think Disney was after not Walt Disney, the company Disney. I think Disney was after a homogeny of entertainment. I think it wants to be a hegemon of entertainment. And I think the fall will be great, of course, but it will be slow. It will be slow. We can hit a lot harder than we are hitting. Sound Engraver, you do realize that Disney may be bankrupt, right? Have you been following the stuff of shareholders from the last 2 weeks? No, I don't know, and I don't know how they will sustain themselves. They'll find a way, but even if they went bankrupt and just collapsed within the next few months, like let's say this was the summer of the fall of Disney, when I say they, I mean the heads of all the creative content, I think, I'm speculating, but I think they got what they were after. I do think this is not the only thing I think Disney is after, but I do think there are people in high positions of power, people higher up, do want a dismantling of traditional entertainment. I'm not saying everyone who works in Disney is like that, but it's just it's not surprising that that would be the case. Will Disney fall within the next few? No, it'd be awesome. I mean, again, I feel for people who are working honest jobs, who are just trying to pay bills. I feel for you guys, but yeah, though I'm not. I haven't caught up with the shareholders, but I will say I'm not holding my breath because there've always been these reactions to catastrophic things, and then nothing comes of it. I'm not saying it can't come of anything, but so I'll take a look at that though. I'll read up the news of the Disney shareholders. We'll see. D. Pensack is correct. The customer is the heart of any business. Absolutely. All right. So we are going down. Andres Hernandez, welcome. Thank you for coming. Oh, you're talking about Private Eye. You're talking about a Captain America issue. That was beautiful. Okay. I will take the recommendation. Cool. I need to start reading actual comics, and I'm gonna start. Uh, I think Prof has this beautiful compilation of. I think was it 1930 Superman. I want to read that, but I also want to read for Halloween. I'm probably gonna read the Long Halloween with Batman. All right. You're recommending a short story anthology, Aragmar. A Mandate of Sword and Railgun. Ooh, that sounds cool. Does it have any industrial vibe, like Industrial Revolution vibe? That would be cool if it did. Cool. Yeah, Sentinel, welcome. Mao knew it. The control of the message through the control of the press and entertainment. I mean, that's the thing. You know, people will argue freedom of the press. I'm like, you know what? Like, freedom of the press, yes. But when you're dealing with monopolies, or at least the concept of monopoly, then you like by that I mean any other independent agent of the press being squashed down, even if they're proficient, even if they have an audience, if they are squished down and disincentivized to producing journalism, like accurate journalism, well, then you don't have freedom of the press. So yeah, I would call it the hegemon, the hegemon of entertainment and information is definitely a thing to watch out for. Brian Gilmartin says, with influence comes headspace. Best way to deny them that headspace is just to say no, walk away, and ignore them. Just like dealing with certain and obnoxious people in the real world. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Brian. There's a little bit of a caveat to what you're saying with regards to the YouTube industry. Most of these people that are causing this negative outcry industry of calling out the bad entertainment, they're actually really likable people. They're easy to listen to. They're likable. They're agreeable, and you want the best for them. That's the thing. Is like you want the best for all these people doing this kind of commentary. And that's the problem. This is kind of different from mainstream entertainment where there are personalities who they show their disgust of the everyday man, the everyday individual. But with YouTube personalities in particular, especially those you agree with, whether socially, religiously, politically, artistically, in your entertainment, most of these people are very decent people. Like, they come across as someone you can hang out with, like in a restaurant, and that's what makes it so hard. It's like, man, you guys are really likable, but it's like you have to be disciplined. Actually, on that note, one second, I just need to turn off my camera for a second and grab something. But not a prop, but I might actually open the door real quick because it's toasty. One hour. 1 hour. All right. All right. So, man, you guys got a lot to say. I better keep talking. So I do want to get this off my chest and, out of my brain, out of my head, just so I say it before I close the stream. I'm not closing the stream. I don't want to end the stream without saying as much. What would be the operative thing? What would be the right thing, the good thing, the positive thing to do, the positive thing for fans to do to finally say to Disney, no, enough. Like go cold turkey, like we've seen with Anheuser-Busch. It would take a great deal of sacrifice among a lot of people. And so here are a couple things that fans need to be aware of. Like you will not be able to change the culture for the better until you understand these two very, very important things. The first thing is you do have to accept a huge level of friction in your day. The best way I can explain that is my own personal experience. I have listened to one or two YouTube channels for a number of years, or at least a number of months, that I've gotten used to. They would have videos I would cook my dinner with and eat my dinner while listening to them. Maybe I'd listen to them while working on something in the background, doing my own video editing or something like that. Their content has been a part of my routine in one way or another. It's not many channels. It's like one channel, maybe two channels over the course of a year. And as much as I would agree with them socially, religiously, politically, whatever the case is, and as much as I find them very agreeable to listen to, I find them to be very amicable and very likable people, I realized their specific content that is reactionary, that is being a reaction to bad entertainment. I realized that just is not edifying anymore. And even though I don't directly support them with something like super chats or whatever, or super thanks, the actual monetary system that YouTube provides, I still give them the support of my view and attention. Now, withholding my view from them, withholding my clicks, is not any indication of resentment or hostility. But I've realized that, you know what? I have to pull back because I don't believe things are changing for the better. At least for me in my experience, you guys might disagree. I don't think culture and pop culture in particular and art in particular is changing for the better with this kind of content. With this, I'm going to respond negatively. I'm going to bash this film. I'm going to bash this show. I think this is bad. So what am I going to do? This is friction. Saying no to them and saying no to their commentary is actually going to be a habit I have to break. That is friction. So that's the first thing I'm introducing to you, is to give up a view, to give up a click. It's going to cause some friction in your routine. It's going to cause the breaking of a bad habit. Not calling them bad as people, but it's saying, okay, I got to pull away. And I have to replace it with something else. So I've decided, I'm not entirely successful, but I've decided to replace this kind of commentary that's been used for when I'm cooking a meal and eating dinner. That's just been my routine. Like that's how I've been vegging after a day of work or a day of doing art or something like that, a day of teaching. I'm like, okay, I have to replace it with something. So I've been replacing it with something a little bit more cerebral than I want, because I'm already a cerebral person, but it's been better. It's been either an unbiased philosophy channel, meaning I have no idea if where this person in philosophy is, like whether they are in opposite to my views socially or politically or in complete agreement with my views. So I'm very careful to listen to more philosophy channels, listening to more about philosophy, listening to more about fundamental archetypes as we would see with storytelling. So a philosophy channel, for instance, an Audible book. So in addition to reading Hyperion for my science fiction reading, I've been listening to historical fiction, and it's been entertaining. It's not as entertaining as commentary on YouTube, but it's still entertaining. And then what else? One example I need to get back to also is radio drama for science fiction short stories. So it's very cerebral. It puts me in a mood that I otherwise would not want to be in. Like, I'm here to just relax and veg and hear people say the things I already know. So, but that's the discipline. I've had to, actually change the channel. I've had to change my focus, refocus my attention on things that better my mind, better my intellect. I feel a little bit more intellectual learning something, or just hearing good fiction. Just hearing good fiction because I'm a writer, so I need to listen to good fiction anyway. Reading it and listening to it. So that's been my change. Friction is something you need to accept if you want the cultural renaissance. If you want a complete removal of Disney's influence and bad entertainment's dominance in the entertainment space, then you have to say, okay, it's probably worthwhile as a fan to stop listening to how bad Star Wars is, for instance. I'm just being real with you guys. I've been a little bit more indulgent than I should have been in the last years. I would say it's because I've sort of been on the side. I've sort of been on the bandwagon saying, okay, well, maybe there is hope for the better. And maybe up until 2 years ago, I really did think certain channels were saying I thought they were correct. I'm like, okay, you know what? If people hit them hard enough, then they'll get the message. And because the opposite has been true, it's like, okay, this commentary and this content is really not making a change for the better. So I've been replacing very agreeable people and their content with other things. So that's the first thing is understand your friction, understand your environment. What can you change? What can you see is not working well for you as far as the fandom is concerned and as far as bad entertainment is concerned and bad art? What can you see about that and say, okay, I have to replace this with something that is more edifying? So, as a general thing for me, philosophy, historical fiction, science fiction, that's been a slow replacement of the YouTube space. So friction is the first thing. The second thing is a much harder one for people to accept, and this is tough. Let me grab some water. So this is my train of thought. Lost my train of thought. The second, number two, the second thing that is so tough, that is going to be the ultimate sacrifice for a lot of fans, is community. Not only is social commentary on YouTube and the fans' reaction against bad entertainment entertaining, you get instant social engagement. There is community in the comments section. There's affirmation. There's agreement. There's debates. There's people duking it out online. You've got as you're experiencing now with me, you've got live chat. You've got instantaneous engagement with something like YouTube. That is valuable to a lot of people. Now, community is important, but now we have fostered a community, not not me with you guys and not with Professor Geek and Fan Man and all those great people. But YouTube as a platform has fostered an incredible, really innumerable communities that have kind of garnered it, like inculcated this, like solidified this identity, that the community that is the fandom, the community that is raising their fists and saying no more, even though they keep getting more. and and the problem is, while community is important, we are social creatures, we need social circles. We need engagement to survive. That is good for our heart. That is our hearts and our minds, and in some ways our spirits. But I would say then, if you can't have this community, let's say you do give up the watching of certain commentary. Well, where's your community then? You have to find it somewhere else. Maybe you find it in the dating sphere. Maybe you start going out with people or going out with friends. Maybe you actually start going out with friends. Maybe you have a church. Maybe there are a couple people you like to hang out in school or at work or something like that, or just getting to know your own family even more and just hanging out with family. But there should probably be an actual life replacement. If community is your thing, it's like, well, this is all we have. This is all the family we have. I would try to reassess that in your life, wherever you are, whether in your work situation, in your family situation, if you're going to school, or in your profession. Maybe you are a part of a work or a career, a profession of some kind, where you actually can engage with people in a very positive way. I think the downside, among many downsides of the pandemic, is that we really started just getting incredibly dependent on the social engagement. Now, I think social engagement online, that's what I meant to say. We've become dependent on online social engagement. It can be used very effectively. It can be used in a positive way, but it also has its negative implications. It has the ramifications of you're substituting someone that you don't otherwise share your life with, like in the physical space. And so because of that, the communities have been just locked in tight with the YouTube sphere, like the spheres of influence on YouTube. So even if you latch on to a personality, however big or small, like my channel is still under 3,000 subs, and I'm grateful for the number of subs I have, but it's nowhere comparing on the level of many other channels who have 10, 20, 30, 100,000 subs. But like people could say, well, I still gravitate toward this person, and I'm glad, I'm grateful. I'm not dissuading you from listening to me. Please listen to me. No, but what I'm saying is, like, the sacrifice of fans is going to lie within the communities. So those are the two ultimate pieces of what am I trying to say? Those are the two ultimate works of sacrifice that the fans have to see the change for the better, to see that cultural renaissance that they want so much. They have to understand their friction, and friction means including friction until it becomes a habit. We are creatures of habit. So friction, we have to implement in our lives and saying, okay, for good change to happen, I've got to replace this social commentary with this book, with this educational commentary or something like that. So understand the friction of your setting, as I shared with my own life experience. But then also understand that community is the biggest driving factor for a lot of these YouTube channels, and they will continue with such engagement. And I'm not saying engagement is bad. I really do love engagement. I love that we have engagement with this magical thing called the internet. It really is a magical thing. People are like, what are you talking about? Like, it's if someone from the 1800s just appeared out of nowhere, well, first of all, that would be magic too. But if they saw, like, I can communicate with the whole world, whoever tunes into me, like, goes through that little portal and sees my face, it's like, whoa, that's magic. So it's really wonderful. But there's a dark side. There's a detrimental angle to being so immersed in community when you see that your community engagement is actually not changing things for the better. So that was very long-winded, at least in my perspective. I don't know if that was long-winded for you guys, but basically, in a nutshell, we're going to recap. In a nutshell, fans, to see the reaction that they saw with Anheuser-Busch, geeks and lovers of all things Star Wars, good Star Wars. Why? No air quotes. There is good Star Wars. Fans need to react to their creative IPs like Bud Light drinkers need to react to Anheuser-Busch. And the only way that that can be instantaneously achieved is to understand the friction of saying no to certain personalities, myself included. I've said it. I'm doing it. I'm practicing it. So understand your friction or the point of friction, and then understand who is a part of your community and what communities you are involved in. And I mean, even I'll be totally honest, even like if you think in any way that I'm detrimental to culture for the better, just let me know. Like, or you don't have to let me know. You can, say, oh, I like Sound Engraver. I think she's a nice girl. But you know, I don't think she's edifying culture for the better. I mean, if that's your supposition, who am I to dissuade you? Like I would want that to be an honest exchange. Like I would never want you to feel obliged to continue listening to me if you feel I'm saying things that are not, for the good, on the whole, for the good of society. So that was way more long-winded than I expected. But let's go ahead and read the comments, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. Oh my goodness. Comments. Oh, okay. So see, I can't even remember. I gotta put this up. Prof has said he refused to watch it. Yeah, so I don't know why I thought you did watch it. And that was after. Was that after The Last Jedi? I can't even remember the chronology of it, but I do remember the viewership was low. So you refused to watch it. I'm sorry for even doubting my prof. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I didn't watch it because I just had no interest in it. But yeah, I know a lot of people did say no. Man, if they treated Solo, or if they treated any other ongoing project like they did with Solo, Star Wars really would be in a different place. It would. Anyway. Andre Hernandez says, I don't understand how people can watch Star Wars continuity with grumpy Luke Skywalker. I mean, even more than that, like, I don't understand that there are people out there who just watch for the sake of watching it because it's new and it's current. But when people say I'm being selective in my watching, I'm not gonna watch this, but I'm gonna watch this. By the way, that's not true. Like, most of the people who would like say, what's a good example? Well, I gave Andor a shot because I thought it was good. And I guess I'll watch the next project because if Andor was good, then the next project can be good. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe that's just speculation, but how do you justify watching something you think is good when it's set in the continuity of all you think is bad? So when Professor Geek said he finished the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we both had this kind of slight trepidation, like, what if seasons 6 and 7 just fall apart and is is just like flotsam on the wayside and or the ocean, you know. But he said it was good. So basically, Agents of Shield is thoroughly good for 7 seasons straight. And we do have the blessing of Feige having effectively disowned. He did disown creatively um, the Agents of Shield canon as not part of the Marvel canon. In one way or another, that's the sentiment. So I'm like, cool. We don't need Agents of Shield part as part of canon. Obviously, there are elements in that show that deal with the Winter Soldier and the events following. But that's fine because Winter Soldier was also a good film. So anyway. Scrolling down just a little bit. Oh wow! So just as an aside, Ragmar, English is your third language? Well, you fooled me. That's pretty good. Awesome. Yeah, I never learned a second language. I guess I can learn, but I'm so preoccupied with getting better at my music and writing stories that learning another language is just not in the queue right now. But I do really admire people for learning a second and third language. The Sentinel brings up a good point. Let's read this. I wouldn't be stupid enough to quit my job if I suddenly had a successful YouTube channel. Once you dedicate yourself to fully relying on YouTube for your income, you're going to make value sacrifice. So you're going to sacrifice good value. And I think that's true. I kind of feel for these major players in the YouTube entertainment industry because they have no one to answer to. Excuse me. I said that wrong. They have no one really to appeal to. It's completely faceless. People say, no, you have, like, if you're a member this way, if you're a YouTube partner in this way, like you'll have a member, you know, you'll have a chat member to help solve your problems or whatever. It's like, it's not on the level as an actual employment, you know, for all the mockery that goes to the HR department. I still see the value of having HR. Yeah, I could say it can go too far, but like working for a company, I'm not saying you should work for a company, but man, unless you know how to have your own business and or maybe you're setting up a business with a very trusted company that fosters good businesses. But I see people like struggle. They'll say, "Hey guys, we need your support. Here are all the platforms we need your support on. And if you wanted to be a YouTube channel member, please support me." Now, actually, please, if you guys want to be members of my channel, for $1.99, you're supporting me. Not really. I'll be honest. You're not supporting me. I need to actually make a video on this. You wouldn't be supporting me making YouTube content because I'm already going to be making YouTube content. It's like, oh, your support will have me make better videos. That's actually not true at all. Your support of my YouTube channel will only affect my artistry in music and writing. Why? Because if I had so much supplemental income from YouTube, I would be able to leave my part-time job, which is effectively 12 to 18 hours of time every week, where I could be dedicated to my writing and to my music. That's how supporting my YouTube channel would affect me. It would actually not affect my channel for the better or for the worse. And sometimes I have to sacrifice content on my YouTube channel because I have to compose music. That's just a fact. Now I try to be frequent as I can with my YouTube content, but in no way would me being a channel member affect my YouTube channel. I mean, maybe like if I started adding tiers, sure, like maybe you would have a say with what I should do next for a video, but that's not going to happen for probably a number of months. But it's not going to say, "Oh, we need," like I'm never going to say, I can't even imagine myself being a YouTuber. Like I don't want to be a YouTuber. I love doing YouTube, but it's a pastime, and having monetary benefits with that is awesome. I'm never going to take that for granted. It's awesome, but it's not going to be the thing that drives my YouTube content. Chances are I will never make it to 50K. My love of content making just I don't produce the kind of quality content. Not just the quality of content. I'm very divergent in my topics. If I homed in on one thing only, I would have more subscribers, whatever that one thing is. But I talk about music, I talk about pop art, I talk about even social stuff sometimes. Uh, I talked about Little Mermaid last week. It's very divergent, and because of that, I won't have the level of subscribers as many others if because they're so the topic is the same. I'm too divergent, too eclectic a channel to ever have that kind of number. But all the same, I'm very happy to have, I'm very happy to be a partner of YouTube, but I won't ever, ever, ever see YouTube as an employer ever. It's just not reliable. I just want to say stuff I want to say, and that's it. But yeah, I feel for these people who are like, oh my gosh, ad revenue is tanking. Yeah, ad revenue is kind of bad, but like it doesn't affect me. And I don't want it to ever affect me negatively. I don't want to be in that position where it would ever affect me negatively. Where like, guys, we're not going to be able to produce videos anymore because of this. I'm like, yikes. Rule of thumb, if you want to be a YouTuber, don't be a YouTuber. Don't make YouTube your employer. Just love doing it. Like enjoy doing a YouTube channel. Talk to people you like. Talk about stuff you like to talk about. Just don't ever think that being a full-time YouTuber is a viable thing. Because even if you made so much money on YouTube, something can happen where YouTube collapses. Sorry, YouTube, don't take me down for saying that, but I'm just saying something can happen where we don't have YouTube anymore. And then what? Yeah, so yeah, it's not a good call to like be blessed, be grateful with any monetary benefits you get from YouTube, but don't ever make YouTube your employer. Just be happy with what you have with YouTube and that's it. So Arakmar says, Russian. Russian is such a pretty language. Not pretty like in a quaint way. It's a beautiful sounding language. I love it. Bulgarian, English, and then now a little bit of German. Cool. Cool. Um, if I had to choose, I'm sure I've said this on my stream before. If I learned any language, it would be Japanese because I just love the musicality of it so much, and I love Japanese architecture. I love East Asian architecture so much. I know I'm not into anime, but I love East Asian architecture. The old dynasty look. So Japanese would be the first language to learn. I can also kind of like I learned a little bit of it in school, like Nihongo ga hanasmasu ka? I don't think I said it as good as I said it when I first learned it, but Russian would be the next language. I think Russian is a beautiful language, especially when women speak it. Yeah. Andrea says, how can people say they are Star Wars fans and say they prefer Disney canon, then complain about The Last Jedi? I don't know. Those are good questions, Andreas. I don't know. And then Brian says, you mean being aside from being a you're answering Andrea saying, "You mean aside from being disingenuous, brainless?" Yeah, I don't know. Well, it is an addiction, you know. Prof has always said that. It's an addiction. I gotta keep moving. Man, this is close to being a 2-hour stream. That never happens. That hasn't happened forever. Yeah, what I have to do, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. But what I have to do going forward with my Sunday streams, because there are more viewers for Sunday streams, I have to say what I need to say and then go to chat. Because it, I love it. I love engaging with you guys, but like sometimes I just like gotta say something, then I gotta go to chat. Chat is saying some very salient things, and then I gotta say what I have to say, and it's back and forth. So maybe I have my lecture or discussion, and then go to chat. That I think that would be a better use of stream time. All right. Andreas says, "I was surprised to know that there was another Star Wars continuity that has Luke train his own Jedi Order and even find love, although it is hard to follow with it spanning over novels, comics, and games." Yeah, that could be true. I would probably just, if I continued the Star Wars EU, I would continue his journey with Mara Jade. Um, that would probably be. I just want to read other science fiction, so I probably won't be an avid EU Star Wars reader as like Prof or whoever else, because there's just so much science fiction out there that I would like to read. But if I do read EU, more of the EU, it would be following Luke Skywalker. Um, Sentinel says, "I've suggested multiple times that the top YouTube channels that Rage on Disney pool some money together. Yeah, and start a film studio. Yeah, I'd love to see a Cyberfrog movie independently financed. You know, Sentinel, that's a really good point. Is that the okay? You know, to defend someone like Shad Brooks, he is investing his money to his creative projects, which I think is cool. Um, maybe I don't know because I don't watch other channels. Maybe other channels are investing. Well, I mean, Eric July, for instance, like he's been a YouTuber forever, so he put that money into his own project. So this kind of seeing if more YouTubers are generating the income they need and the financial assets they need to invest in their own creative projects, that's fine. I don't think it needs to be a complete collaboration. However, I would say though that I think certain communities do need to, like certain YouTubers who have so much influence, they do need to, if they want to make a change for the better, they need to start hunting for new stories, whether it's from their own friends, their own circle of friends, or other people. You know, as far as I think it was the Iron Age, the term that has been coined now as the Iron Age, they need to start looking up campaigns for the Iron Age, and I would say promote it if it's good quality. If it's not good quality, I wouldn't promote it, whether it's a very small independent creator or a very large one. I will never have personally that pressure to promote anything I don't think is good quality. But I'm sure there's good quality out there. And people who actually read graphic novels, like that's the thing, is like I kind of want to support independent creators, but I don't read graphic novels. So if it's any independent creator that I do support, it's because I've liked their science fiction. So I have to check out the contemporary science fiction. Yeah. All right, let's continue to wrap this up. Hello, Dave. Welcome. All right, continuing down. I'm gonna probably be skipping down. I that's the other problem with me and my streams. It's like I like to read all of your comments. It's not a problem, but as far as time is concerned, it can definitely prolong the stream. All right. Sentinel says New Line Cinema was built on franchising Freddy Krueger. I did not know that. An independent movie studio that uses an established character with an established fan base to get the ball rolling would work. That's completely sound advice. Now, I think because there's such a monopoly on established characters, it would be really just investing in your own stuff and creating your own established characters. Like, you can't I guess you could hunt for some good archetypes in the public domain. That would be probably a good place to start, but that or just do your own thing. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So Brian Gilmore actually has done a very good thing, and that is I've largely you say I've largely abandoned social commentary in favor of gaming streams. So you've actually made the replacement. You're saying, okay, this is obviously this is not helping the situation anymore with regards to good entertainment. So let me actually go to good entertainment. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, good. Private Eye says you replaced it for learning more of history. Very good. Nice. That's never a bad thing. Um, as far as Star Wars EU audiobooks, Kenobi was great. Kenobi was cinematically done. It's got good acting with the reader. Good. Um, I don't know the reader's name. I have the book in the other room. But it's on Audible. Kenobi is a really good read. It got me through driving across country. It was really fun. It was really cool because it's like you're on Tatooine, and then I was driving through places like Wyoming, South Dakota, very arid places of that part of the country. It was really cool. I also enjoyed the audio book of Allegiance. Uh, Forgive me, I'm forgetting the author's name, but that's a good Star Wars EU book. I have my gripes with that book a little bit concerning Mara Jade's character. Um, she's not a Mary Sue, but there are things that happen where she gets away with things happening to her because, of course, she continues on as to be Luke's betrothed and wife in the future. But I'm like, oh man, would that really have happened if it was another character? But that's only one or two times. Well, yeah, I think so. Brian points out for me, it really doesn't matter what these companies do. I know I'm going to hate it, and chances are I'll hate them for both producing it and going to war with the audience over it. Well, that's the incentive to producing this bad entertainment is creating and churning up these political and social shenanigans that will get a reaction. Reaction is the best currency. Influence, reaction, relevance, that's all the best kind of currency now. Oh, good. Dave says I have ISOM 1 and excited for ISOM 2. Yeah. Yeah. Again, as I said before, graphic novels are not my go-to for entertainment. It's not that I have anything against them. That's just not been my cup of tea. But I'm glad that Eric July has been filling in that void. Very good. Very good. All right. All right. I think I'm going to scroll down just a little more. Thanks, guys, for all your engagement. I appreciate that. Good. Dave says he's also writing a novel. Busy, though, because you're also a musician. Awesome. Cool. Very good. Keep the arts alive. Horrid Films is in. Welcome. I was done with Star Wars after The Force Awakens and Rogue One. Never even watched The Last Jedi. Yeah, I kind of wish I said the same. I could say the same. And the Blog Fathers Paranormal Investigations. Ooh, I think I have horror fans in my community, which you are welcome. I do not watch horror. I'm reading Hyperion for the first time by Dan Simmons, and it started out pretty slow, but I finished the first major character motive for going to Hyperion, and it's pretty terrifying. I can do some terrifying concepts with reading science fiction because that there are a couple. Yeah, there's some very terrifying ideas that were brought in that book. I'm not done with the book, so no spoilers. um, but I can't do The Thing, for instance. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. And I was like, that's not true. Women can watch The Thing. I'm like, fine, you go watch it. I'm not gonna watch it. Private Eye says, don't become any YouTuber. It's honestly a fool's dream. You'll have a better chance of becoming a Hollywood celebrity, from the good old days. Maybe. Well, I do promote things like my original music, and I'll promote my science fiction once I finally have that published. So, I have reasons for being on YouTube in addition to it being a nice, very nice pastime. And hopefully, people find it insightful. What I have to say, insightful. Andre says, you also have a fascination with Japanese culture connected, of course, to your love of anime and video games. Well, I love Final Fantasy, so I did try learning Japanese as well. If I was put in Japan, if I was captured and all of a sudden I woke up, found myself in Japan, the only thing I could say is "Eigo wa hanashimasu ka?" Sumimasen. Eigo wa hanashimasu ka? Which I think means, excuse me, do you speak English? Thank you. Thank you, Ginyu. I do appreciate that. I love you guys checking out what I have to say and also what the prof has to say. I'm kind of scrolling down because I can hang out here forever, but I do have to get ready for date night. That's the condition. My poor prof, I hope he's not exhausted from my long stream. We got to watch Battlestar Galactica. All right. So, that's good. I think I will end it there. So that was a lot more long-winded than I thought it would be. So hopefully what I had to say made sense. Maybe I can condense it in another video or another stream. I will say, let's kind of give a channel update. I've been very far away from my mic, so hopefully I've been nice and loud and clear. But so channel update going forward, at least with this week, not really any social commentary. You know how, I don't know if you've seen my recent videos where I'm close up to my phone. The lighting is better. It looks a little bit more professional than an actual stream. I probably should fix the lighting in this room. This looks dingy. I promise. My studio, my little studio here is clean. I do keep it clean, but it's very dark looking and stuff like that. What was I going to say? What is on the dock? I'm going to take a break from just a small break, maybe a couple weeks from, social commentary or general commentary, unless I have a very good idea to say. Those videos I really do like to make, but I will be honest, they do not get a lot of views, and I like making those videos, and I think I have good ideas to say. However, if I'm not careful, making those videos and editing those videos do take a lot of time, and I really could just be composing music or writing science fiction. So, in lieu of commentary, usual commentary, they'll continue in one form or another. I'll still do that format where I'm recording on my phone. But I really do want to just continue just churning up music. I have a lot of good tracks coming up. I have a few good tracks coming up. I'm very, very excited. And at the same time, I also need to get back into SuperCollider. I need to just, it's funny. Like my Logic Pro videos and my SuperCollider videos are still the people, the videos people turn to. And I love it. I love that because I love producing music in Logic Pro, and I really do love learning in SuperCollider. I feel like I could be way more advanced in SuperCollider than I have been in the number of years I've worked in it. But those will continue. I do want to get back to just, hey, this is my experimentation. I like those videos. They're fun to make. They're easy to make, and I make them while I am working in my music. They're not that they don't some of these videos don't generate a lot of views or a lot of interest, but it helps me with my creative time. And so most of my social commentary and my art commentary, yes, I will still have those standalone videos, but they will more or less come from my streams. So anyway, that is what I have to say. So thank you guys for tuning in. That was I had fun talking about that. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. You guys engaging with one another is always very, very nice to see. But I will leave it at that. So until I see you next, keep producing, preserving, and promoting that good art that you love. And I will catch you later. Thanks again.